G'day everyone and welcome to our first edition of CrowCast for 2026. I'm not used to saying 2026 yet, but even though we're still two-thirds of the way through the footy season, it's time to talk about the footy, and who better to talk about the footy with, particularly in pre-season, than the guru of pre-season training reports, the legendary Bigman. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Fiend. That's quite a talk up you gave me, mate. Don't block my ego too much. But,
Yeah, I've set a
no,
I've set a few expectations.
look, it's this is a. I mean, I'm sure it's not the best for the players, but for someone watching like me, I've always enjoyed going there, and it's one of my favourite times of the year. So, very keen to talk about it.
Yeah, very good. And of course, for our YouTube members and our Discord gold, silver, and bronze members, you have accessibility in the chat. So we'll be watching the chat as you go through, and any questions that come up that need answering, we'll get to those in due course. And also, obviously, for YouTube members, you'll be seeing this on YouTube a little bit before the general public, just to give you a little bit of love. We didn't give you enough love last year. So we'll give you a little bit more love this year with previews of content. All right, mate. Well, before we get into specifics, probably the first thing just to touch on briefly in terms of pre-season discussions is Matthew Nix's contract extension. What do you think of that?
Well, the last time we were talking, it was sort of in the ether, wasn't it? It was already been discussed a bit. The feelers have been put out. Yeah. And we weren't overly enamoured with what we were hearing, but it seemed like it was a fait accompli, and that's what it ended up being, didn't it? The only thing I will say is at least it's only a year, an extension, so it's this year obviously, and then just the next year as well. Yeah. I just don't see the point of this, and this is not just us. This is pretty much widespread around the entire AFL. There's very few coaches that are at risk of being poached or whatnot, and I don't think, in all fairness to Matthew Nix, I don't think he's someone that other clubs are just chomping at the bit to steal from us. So I never quite understood why clubs are so keen to re-sign coaches so early. And not only that, but to me, I just don't see the appeal of it when they talk about stability and trying to hush the noise a bit. But if things go sour in this year, if we have a poor start to the year, I don't think we will, but our draw isn't the easiest. Then the pitch, the pitchforks and everything will be out, regardless of whether he was out of contract this year or next. If anything, it just creates a new problem. So, I'm not ecstatic about it. Like I said, though, it's only a year. At least it wasn't like a 2 or 3 year extension, but it just seems unnecessary to me, Fiend. How did you feel about it?
Oh, look, that was probably my first reaction. The why. I can kind of see it from the point of view of just taking that away from the equation. I'm sure that any extension these days comes with a few little performance caveats, and for the sake of towards the back end of last year, the club was under a bit of pressure through the media, and I think the club suffered from that. And so from the point of view of just removing that media scrutiny from Matthew Nix, because we have got a difficult start to the season, giving him some clear air, I would imagine that it doesn't actually make a lot of difference to his tenure. Like, if he's struggling at the halfway mark, I don't think that contract extension actually plays a role in whether we would consider keeping him or not. So I'm probably not as fussed about it now as I was when it was first announced.
Sure. If there's a silver lining, Fiend, I'd say that, and this is probably really nothing, but maybe having that extra year means he might not be as desperate at selection, relying on older blokes or the established players. Maybe just gives him a bit more freedom to experiment with positions and useful players, and maybe that happens. So I guess that's one little slight positive that may come out of it.
Look, I think that's a really good point, and if it does result in that, then happy days, because that alleviates one of the one of the burning issues that we had during the course of last season. So, yeah. Aside from that, construction continues on, obviously, with the new facilities. We haven't had a huge amount from the PR department over Christmas, but that's to be expected with everyone just having a bit of a break. I drove past there a couple of weeks ago, and it's bloody massive, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot going on, obviously, with the South Road stuff as well. But yeah, it's big, and it's pretty impressive, even in its obviously pre-completion state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see it to see it come together. It's obviously going to be much more exciting when it gets close. But you
Yeah.
know, I also I won't lie, mate. The West Lakes area itself is I don't think they're putting any money into it anymore, mate, because there's weeds growing everywhere. The
Yeah.
ovals, I actually won't lie, mate. The oval's a bit of a bloody pigsty at the moment. So hopefully
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing, no injuries to come out of that. But yeah, I think we're pretty much all just got our eyes on Thebby, mate. Now, yeah, we're not really caring too much about where we are, which is a shame. But yeah, pretty much the sooner the better, mate. We can get into the new place.
Look, I think so, and that's probably a worry in some respects because we're still a fair way away from getting in there
We
for
are.
the end of this season. So hopefully they give at least the surface down at Footy Park a bit of love.
Oh,
Um,
mate, there's a sand pit at Centre Half Forward at the moment. I don't know what's going on.
really?
I saw Adam Kelly inspecting it before one of the sessions. He didn't look too happy, but so I'm be interested to see if we continue training there or not. But we've had like 3, 4 sessions now where that sand's really exposed. So I'm guessing we're just going to keep training there and hope for the best, mate, that no one slips over and does a knee or something. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Well, there's a nice little facility that they spent about 200 million on at Lindock that's getting a couple of games a year. So maybe we should shift up to the Barossa.
That or like even that Mount Barker play, like that's such a great surface, or at least it is during gather
Mm,
round. Um,
mm.
yeah, it's look, it confuses me a bit because we're supposed to be talking about an elite, organization, $1 billion organization, and yeah, you see the ground conditions, and it's not great, mate. It's not a great look for us either. I think when you compare it to what the other teams would be training on, so. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're doing there, but luckily, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon, injuries have been kept to a minimum so far. This on return from Christmas.
Well, I wonder how much leverage we now have, whether because we've still technically under the lease, but I wonder whether the developers have got a little bit more leverage in terms of what they do and don't do. I don't know. It's a bit of a concern, but I guess that's something they're just going to have to manage, I suppose. But yeah,
Mm,
not the best, not the best.
no.
All right. Now, anything else that I've missed there in terms of um, goings on at club level?
Not too much. They did announce just yesterday, I think, or the day before that our other preseason game's going to be at Alberton against Port, so that'd be great.
Hmm.
Going to
Hmm.
that hellhole. And we've got the community camp as well. So I think we're playing our trial game, our internal trial in Port Augusta, I think, from
Yeah.
memory. So yeah, just little things there just to note. But otherwise, it's been pretty quiet, mate. Which this time of the year is usually a good thing. 'Cause it means either our players are not getting injured or they're not getting in trouble.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start with injuries, and I think probably the main one that people would probably be interested in at the moment is Sid Draper. Obviously, struggling a little bit with groins at the moment. And
Mm.
I guess the concern from my perspective is I really don't want us to have another bloody Brad Crouch situation where we burn the kid out.
That's the fear. Um, there's the positives and negatives to this whole thing. So obviously, the negative is that he's not back in main training.
Yeah.
And before Christmas, he was barely seen feet. I saw him about 3 times.
Mm.
Um, Two of them, he was doing very light running. When I say light, I mean like basically on the spot, sort of like technique work more than anything. And the
Yeah.
other time, he started doing the same thing and then just went inside. Obviously, wasn't happy about how he felt.
Yeah.
Since Christmas though, and I know Murray Davis talked about this in the press conference because he was asked about it, and it's amazing how long this actually went for before the journos started asking questions. Um, he actually came back pretty well from pre-season. Sorry, from Christmas, the Christmas break. He's actually doing a lot more running now. He's
Okay.
done every session I've seen.
Yeah.
He's running alongside Keezy, and he's not going quite as fast as Keezy, but he's not that far off. And he's doing about an hour session before heading in each time. So it's a massive step up from what he was doing before Christmas. But obviously, we're talking groins here. We're probably talking OP, and
Yeah.
that's always alarm bells in my eyes. So look, given the way he plays and everything, it's going to take quite a while, I think, for him to get up to speed, literally, because his whole thing is dynamicism and his speed and agility and everything. And groins aren't. I mean, groins are bad. Groins are the bad at the best, best at the worst times or best times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but let alone for someone like he plays the way he does. So I'm going to basically consider the first third of the year almost a rider for him.
Yeah.
I think he will play maybe SNFL obviously in that period, the way he's tracking, or fingers crossed that it continues on the trajectory it is now. But I'd be shocked if he's starting AFL round one. He just won't have the work in him,
Yeah.
or the footy stuff. And I think obviously there's still areas of his game he needs to improve, and that's going to have to happen in the SNFL, I guess. So it's a real shame because I think he was one of the guys we were excited about to sort of step up for us this year. But I think we're going to have to wait a bit longer.
Yeah, I'm no doctor, but I've had a lot of lower back issues in my life that have manifested due to leg and hip and pelvis instability. And my concern, given that he presented with back issues in his debut season carried over from the year before, pardon me, I'm worried about whether he has similar pelvic instability issues that Brad Crouch had, and whether that's now manifesting in soft tissues around the quads and the groins, etc., which is often the case, and that that takes a fair amount of correction to get that area of your body stable. A lot of work on your core, a lot of work on realignment of your hips, etc. But he's a 19-year-old kid, and I would rather that they spent the time fixing that physical deficiency now rather than doing what we used to do, which is get him to play through, which is essentially what cooked Brad Crouch and probably played a part in cooking Matt Crouch as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the comparison to Brad's interesting, isn't it? Because Brad just had the broken bones as well. He was just a mess in his early days, and then obviously towards the end of his time here. I will say that Sid, in all fair, and this is no shade to Brad, but Sid's a harder trainer than Brad, and more professional.
Yeah.
He's even right now. He looks like he's made of granite. He looks great out there in terms of his physical makeup. So if anything, it's likely due to overtraining and or training the wrong way. But I don't think it's through a lack of effort. And I think if anyone's going to get himself right, I'm pretty sure Sid's one of those types that's going to be pretty diligent.
Yeah.
And we've seen guys in the past, I know it's not groins, but Trent Cotchin's first few years at AFL level, he was constantly getting hamstrings and other soft tissue injuries. And he ended up playing, 300 plus games almost or whatever. So, you can turn it around. I've been in the short term. I think we're going to have to obviously. It's not like I don't think he will play this year. I think he will, or hopefully, but he's not going to have much of an impact. So it's going to have to be other players that have to step up. And I mean, Sid's only, as you said, 19. So we had to be pretty measured in what we expected this year anyway. As exciting as he is, I think that we still needed to be a bit cautious with him, regardless of whether he was injured or not, because he's not the white great hope yet.
No.
And hopefully others, as I said, hopefully others step up, and there's a few boys that are looking like they might. So that's one positive, I guess.
And look, there'll be those out there that say, well, look at some of the other top 4, top 6 picks in terms of where they are, and Langford is one obviously that comes to mind. But I think, unfortunately, it just is what it is, right? So there's no point in making those comparisons because we've just now got to deal with where he sits, and it's a shame that we don't have that output from him that Melbourne are getting from Harvey Langford, and Richmond are getting from their picks, etc. But I think,
well, actually, Gene, I was going to say that like Sam Lawler's had chronic hamstring issues even before he got drafted, and he had bad hamstrings last year. So he's in full training now for Richmond, but who knows if he will have a reoccurrence. And Josh Smiley, who's only taken a few picks after Sid, he hasn't barely got on the track. So
Smiley's the one that I was thinking of because I was a big rap for him, and they've been very, very cautious with Smiley. And I'd like us to take the same approach with Sid.
Yep, I think as much as let's see what the new guy, the Irish boy, I can never pronounce his name, the new fitness guy, but how he approaches
that guy.
injury management and stuff. But we know Burgess's approach to injury is different, and there's definitely arguments to be made that he pushes players too hard through injury. I don't think this is going to be the case with Sid though. They've been incredibly cautious.
Yeah.
And I think the positive is that he's running genuinely well. He doesn't look like he's restricted out there. He's not allowed to sprint or anything like at the moment, but he's actually running at a decent clip, and they're running a fair bit. They're not holding him back from doing a lot of kilometres. But as I said, it's the football stuff that's going to test out his groins. The sharp turns and the quick speed off the mark and all those things that make his game what it is.
Yeah, the power.
So we'll have to
stuff.
wait and see. But yeah, if anything to the listeners, I'd say don't be too down about how he's tracking. If you've heard it's bad, it's probably not it doesn't look quite as bad as it probably did before Christmas. But at the same time, don't expect him to be featuring round one or anything like that. So we'll have to look at other players for that midfield role.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Benny Keys as well. Obviously, had a hammy issue early on. He's tracking all right?
Yeah, he's fine. I've been to every session, Fiend, except for the one that was on Thursday last week when they came back. I had no idea I thought they would come back on the Monday because that's when the club was opening and everything. It just made sense to me. But no, they managed to get a session in without me, and that's the one where he did his hamstring.
Yeah.
And then I saw him on the Monday for my first session, and he wouldn't even know, mate. Apart from the fact he was in the rehab group, the way he's running out there, like it's obviously very minor, and they're not letting him. A bit similar to Sid, they're not letting him sprint at the moment. But you know how Keezy is. He always looks like he's going pretty hard. So
yeah.
He's got the typical Keys high knees gait sort of thing going on, and he's. I'd be shocked if he's not in full training by within probably Monday next week. I'd say not this Monday coming up, but the following Monday. I think he'll be back. It seems very minor. They're not really holding him back from doing much at all. So no, it's all good there. And I was never too worried about that one. Keys is professional. The only issue I think is reoccurrence if it happens again.
Yeah,
that's always a worry. But as we said, he's pretty diligent. Keys. He's fit as a fiddle. So no concerns there.
Yeah. Anyone else wearing the hat at the moment?
So Max Michaelani, he I don't know what I wish I knew what his issue was. I can't see him strapping around. I've had like different theories on what it could have been, but I still don't quite know myself. But he is wearing the fluoro hat, so he's not allowed to do contact work, but he's still doing all the match sim and such.
Yeah.
He's just not, if he's got the ball, no one's allowed to tackle him and such.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he looks pretty good out there. He looks a bit underdone in terms of just the up to speed of things, because he wasn't doing a whole lot before Christmas. But apart from that, mate, I mean, some players have had strapping here or there, but no one's really been forced out of things, and they've been managing some of the older blokes quite a bit, and not just necessarily older blokes. I know this week Archie, Finbar Maley, and Indy Cotton were being managed through quite a bit. They were only doing bits here or there, and otherwise they were just doing a lot of running. Yeah. So I think they must have come back from the break a bit sore. Maybe they something happened in that first session back. I'm not quite sure, but they're not injured per se. They're not in the rehab group, but yeah, they're just being managed through. Archie um, had some issues before Christmas as well, so I think
Yeah.
they're really just he obviously finished a bit later than the rest, and he might have been a bit sore after all of the final series and stuff. Yeah, they played 27 games, Brisbane, so
Yeah, yeah.
but apart from that, mate, no, everyone's flying, and if you combine the list we have plus the train on players, like the two SSP boys, a few of the SNFL players that train with us, like Drury and Strawn and Tom Bell, who's from WA, and the academy kids, the under 18 academy kids that were training with us this week. We had over 50 players training at one time
Yeah,
there
right.
at Westlake, so we weren't
On
short of
half a
numbers, put it
deck.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I guess it's the mythical training loads these days. They measure them to the nth degree, and they can measure loads fairly like pinpoint in terms of muscle groups and all that sort of stuff. So obviously, sometimes they're managing stuff that we would never know about because it's not visible. But yeah, Kane Corns gave the new bloke that I can't remember his name either a good rap on SEN during the week, and he'd obviously trained under him previously and didn't think that the Crows would suffer at all from losing Darren, aside from the fact that Burjo is obviously world class. This bloke's worked under him and worked in professional environments, so that was good feedback from someone who isn't prone to giving us plaudits unless they're 100% warranted. And overall, he was quite bullish about the Crows too. Not that we're going to go into that today, but he had us on his little panic meter. He had us at 2 out of 10, so he's pretty comfortable with where we're at.
Well, look, I'll say this about the new bloke. Look, it's always hard to judge because you probably want to ask the players exactly, rather than me as to how hard they're working. But my gut feel is that they're actually being pushed a bit harder than they were under Berger. I don't know if that's because of the shorter preseason, obviously because we played finals or whatnot. But just there's a bit more. The running's a bit more intense. Obviously, it's hotter, which doesn't help either. But it's also, just and the competitive work and the speed. There's a bit more sprinting. Burjo never really liked us doing sprinting work, whereas this guy does. The warm ups are just a bit more complicated, a bit bigger.
Yeah.
I just think there's the sessions are a little bit longer too. It just feels like some of them are up to 3 hours long. I look. As I said, you have to ask the players, but to me, to my eye, they're getting pushed pretty hard. There was the last session before Christmas in particular was one of the worst, most grueling sessions I think I've seen.
Yeah, right.
And that was in hot. That was like a 30+ degree day too, as well. So, now trust me, for those out there, the boys aren't being, they're not being coddled. Put it that way. They're being worked really hard at.
Well, there was certainly some feedback in the media regarding some of the stuff that's been posted on socials from the club during training that suggested that fitness is not going to be our problem, strength is not going to be our problem, and some eyebrows raised, I think, about the intensity with which we're being trained, and some of the PBs that players are getting in the weights room and that sort of stuff. So all good stuff, as long as it doesn't result in negative soft tissues, etc., down the track. But we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, and look, honestly, mate, some of the stuff they're doing, like as early as like this week, straight back from Christmas, like the change of direction, the speed, the accelerations, and the high end stuff.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that we haven't had an actual injury from it yet. It's bound to happen at some point because it's obviously happening around the league. They're going hard and they're going real fast. So I mean that's great because that's how you got to play. You have to train like you play, but fingers crossed it doesn't result in too many issues.
Now, just before we leave the injury front, I seem to recall that Riley Thilthorpe might have had a small knee issue prior to Christmas. Am I right there? And if so, how's he going now?
Yeah, so he had a little bit of strapping around his knee. I don't know if it was the injured one or not. I couldn't actually tell you. He did in that preseason game a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But no, he's going great. He's fine now. A few of the boys had strapping pre-Christmas. It felt like there was the mummy returns out there for a while, but
Yeah, right.
they're all cleared up. It just happens, people they land a bit awkwardly and they get strapping.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
pretty cautious with those things. But no, he's strapping free. Even his fingers are pretty much strapping free. And no, he looks good out there. He isn't going gung ho just yet. He's just getting through the sessions. His
yeah,
time will to shine will come in a couple of months.
yeah, yeah. Now, just a reminder for those in the audience, and we are recording in front of a live studio audience, so those in the audience and chatting away there, which we've got on the screen, if you do have a question you want to ask Bigman, then please pop it in there and we'll get to it as we go along. I think probably, mate, one of the main things that people are interested in is the early days match sim, and particularly some changes with regards to perhaps people are being utilised and roles that they're playing. And I guess let's start with the absolute beast number 2, Dan Curtin. Any run through the middle in match sim for him?
Yeah, so just to clarify, match sim is it's always a tricky thing to talk about because
Mm.
there'll be teams listed up. They're very kind to to anyone who wants to go and watch. They put the big teams up on the big screen, so you can actually
Oh,
just
do
read the
they?
teams.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice. But when we do when they talk match sim, it's only 15 minutes here or there. Often it's without stoppages, so
Yeah,
they'll just kick a ball loose to the half back. Then they say basically go play from there.
yeah,
But sometimes they'll just pause the game, they'll chit chat to the players, and they'll just do something else. And so you can't really. Not only is it only 15 minutes, but just the way it goes, it's quite hard to grasp who's thriving in certain roles,
yeah.
particularly in the midfield roles because there's no stoppages.
Mm.
Um, the last couple of sessions, they have actually added stoppages in, and on Friday we actually had what I would call a genuine scratch match, albeit it was only 30 minutes, so basically just a quarter.
Mm.
So that was true football. We had umpires, stoppages around the ground, centre bounce, all that stuff. So it's always when we talk match sim, there hasn't been a heap of it except for just bits and pieces here or there. But Dan has always been named, as far as I'm aware, in the guts, not
Mm.
even on the wing or anything like that. So he's always been named there. And on the Friday when they were actually doing centre bounce, he was right there from the start. And he would have won about 3 or 4 clearances, including a really nice one where he sort of took the ball, did a spin, handballed over his head, and then got the ball back and fended off a tackle. And because they can't tackle him, he's too big.
Yeah,
Look, even if he doesn't have as much acceleration as some of the other mids, he's very good with his hands and tight.
yeah,
He's very good at using his height to get the handball over the head to
yeah.
his
Get his arms
teammates. And
free. Yeah,
because of his size, he's not really restricted in terms of getting rid of it. So you know, he's still a work in progress, but no, they seem pretty much set on him being a midfielder now.
good signs.
We'll have to see if that changes. But as I said, every time that team's come up, it's D Curtin
Yeah,
and Ruck
right.
Rover. So yeah, it's that's exciting because I actually half expected us to sort of pussyfoot around a bit, sort of do
Yep.
half measures, but no, it seems like we're all in. So I think people
Yeah.
would be happy to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sounds like he'll be renamed Daniel Bontempelli if that keeps going. And I think that, look, the prototype's changing in AFL all the time. And if you have a look at our profile now, a few years ago we were lamenting about the fact that we're a bit of a mosquito fleet. But if you have a look at our list profile now, we've got some beasts in our side on all lines. And that's obviously where AFL footy is heading. People just naturally seem to, or kids are naturally bigger as they come through, and gone are the days of the Macca bloody Rover. Now we're talking about 188 plus into the midfield without a problem at all. And look, when I grew up, Rick Davies was one of the champion ruckmen of the competition, and he was 6 foot flat. So unbelievable change in the game.
Yep, Modger was a key forward, and he
Yeah,
was about 6 foot. Even Rue
Yeah.
was barely 6 foot, and he was basically a key forward when he played up there. Wayne Carey was a pretty tall 192 centimetre centre forward. Now that's
Yeah.
considered undersized. And yeah, look, midfielders have changed, and there's always players to break the mold. Bontempelli 194 centimeters, Patrick Cripps 195. If you said that
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago, people would have said, "No, they're too slow, too tall."
Too slow. Yeah.
And look, things change. There's at the end of the day, there's spots for all sizes as long as you're bloody good at football. So,
Yeah.
Lockie Neal's a champion and on the field, and
Oh, why'd
and,
you bring him
and
up? For God's sake.
and he's not exactly a Goliath, and there's others, of
Talk
course,
about
that
a
are around his height.
pre-season.
He's getting good workouts, mate. But
Oh,
no,
Jesus.
what I was going to say, you throw me off track. But,
Well, you brought him up.
look, look, Dan's 197, so he's up there. He's not as tall as Blitzars, and Blitzars has played midfield, so it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
The key is, is he dynamic enough? You can't just be tall and big for the sake of it. You got to be dynamic. You got to be sharp, and we know he's got a bit of pace when he gets going, and we know he's all class with the ball. So it should work, and so far so good. We'll see how it keeps going, but yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
Well, speaking of dynamic, mate, the other bloke that people, including myself, have been screaming to get more midfield time and CBAs is Josh Rochelle. He's an absolute beast in the gym. How's that been translating to the track and match sim?
So he's, I think it's still in the more pinch hit sort of role. And I don't mean that as a negative thing because, he wasn't getting a pinch at all last year.
No.
And we know how good he is up forward, and I think the club recognises that. I'm pretty confident it's going to be a sort of a Rankin Rochelle rotation back and forth there.
Yeah.
With Rankin getting bit more of the midfield time.
Yeah.
But obviously when you're doing matching, you got the A team, the B team, and often they'll put Rochelle in the B team to play in the midfield. So he's still getting time in there. In the scratch match on last Friday, he started up forward, but he did get some centre bounce attendances for the A team, and it was a mix of him pushing up high and stuff. He looks great out there. He's obviously super fit, as he was last year.
Yeah.
But he looks really confident. He's winning more one-on-ones, and he just has a bit more aura about him and a bit more presence.
No strapping on the knee?
No strapping on the knee. He's got strapping on his arm right now. I'm not sure what that was for, but
He's
he's always picking up something. But I will say
the bloke's benching. What's he benching? Something ridiculous. He's probably bloody bit sore around the arm, around the biceps.
140 or something, was it? I can't remember.
It's ridiculous, whatever it is.
130, 140. Actually, pre-Christmas, he did have a little bit around his knee, but so did half the other players, it seemed like. So it doesn't seem to be an ongoing thing there. It looks like, to the eye at least, he doesn't seem to be having any complications from that injury last year.
Yeah. Now, we had a question in the chat about the Ruck competition. Do we see McAndrew challenging Riley O'Brien at all? Obviously, the Ruck rules changed this year, which I don't think is to Riley's favour. No. How's that been shaping up?
You'd be surprised how little ruck work they actually do at training. If they ever do ruck work, it's usually with the orange bag. Yeah. And I guess that's to stop injury, but the only problem is eventually you're going to have to do it against each other. The scratch match, again, I'll refer to that quite a bit because that was like genuine football. That actually had centre bounces, and McAndrew was jumping over him quite a bit. Yeah. So it sort of confirms what we all thought, that Rob was going to struggle to get off the ground. Yeah. Obviously, around the ground, the boundary throw-ins, and even just, ball ups and whatnot, it was much more even although sometimes, that extra height for McAndrew, he won over Rob. Yeah. If you put it that way, I guess it's up, he's up against it. But the only problem is that McAndrew himself isn't exactly Max Gorn out there. He's tall and he competes, and he's tougher than you might think, McAndrew, but he doesn't have much of a marking presence, and when Rob's in good form, he does have actually good aerial ability, which McAndrew hasn't really ever shown. So, look, anytime there's been team lineups, it's always Rob in the A team. and I think we're going to start like that unless something changes. Over the rest of the preseason, but I'm a bit concerned. I mean, I was concerned about Rob last year, and he ended up having a really good year for 2/3 of it. But with these rules, it does leave a bit more room for Rob to sort of let McAndrew or whoever else, or maybe someone else, overtake him.
Yeah.
We're pretty set in our ways, aren't we, with Rob? He's a leadership team member. He's on a big contract, all of that. So I'm sure we're going to find ways to keep him in the team. But I am a bit worried, Finn, about those rules having an impact because we know he's not a great jump.
Yeah. And, the fact he got a contract extension, not that we're going to get into that today, but we know what he's like when he's comfortable. So that'll be interesting to track. Sam in the chat preempted what I was going to ask next anyway, but obviously we had some inclusions from the draft. Mitch Marsh first. How's he settling in?
Yeah, good. He's pretty skinny lad. He'll fill out really nicely because he's got that shape about him, but he's quite an athletic, lean build. So when it comes to like the contest stuff, particularly the aerial stuff, he has found out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just against the big gorillas out there, and that's just what happens. I wasn't expecting him to dominate, against Butts and Murray and whatnot. But the things that we liked about him before the draft, and the reasons I was really happy for us to take him. He's got a great kick. He's a smart player. He makes good decisions, and he's versatile too. So at the moment he's sort of playing at the moment he's sort of playing a roaming forward role. On the weekend, on the Friday, he took a really nice intercept mark in defence. So he's working all the way up there, and he's obviously got a big bird on him. So he won't play round one or anything like that. I'll be curious to see what they do with him in terms of his position, whether they play him on the wing or if they just want to keep him up forward for now. We are pretty stacked with tallish forwards in the reserves, so I wouldn't be shocked if we would play him on the wing, because just looking at our list composition, it does seem like we have a bit of an opening there if with Curtin moving in to the guts and coming, who I expect to be on the wing starting round one, but he's not a natural wingman, so it feels like we probably need to get some genuine wingmen into that team, and I think Marsh hopefully in time could be one of those sort of players.
I agree with that. I think it was one of our key deficiencies during the course of the season, particularly in the back half, that we lost a lot of drive in transition. Some of that was obviously game plan, but I think we also suffered from our wings not being dynamic. We had coming often behind the ball in a defensive wing role, and I don't think Dan Curtin went through a little bit of a purple patch. But they kind of stopped looking for him, and I wondered whether he got a bit tired too towards the end of the season. I'd like to see a hard running wingman, and like I said, maybe not this year for Mitch Marsh, but I reckon he fits that criteria pretty strongly. So it'll be interesting to see how. And that was the chatter kind of around draft time that they talked up his versatility quite a bit. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, we will obviously there was concerns about his height, as a key forward, but as a wingman, suddenly he becomes a tall marking option. Correct. And he's obviously such a beautiful kick, and he has an engine. He's up there. He'd be in the top 10 or so best runners at the club.
Yeah, right.
So it all sounds right, doesn't it, for a good wing option?
Well, it's a good start. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. And honestly, that whole wing spot has been. I mean, Chase Jones was in the A team on the weekend on that wing spot, which I don't expect to be the case in round one. But I think that just gives an indication, Fiend, is that who's actually going to play there. Scholl's been training well. He's an option. Dowling's actually moved into an inside role, so I still expect him to play wing time. But is he someone we look at there? Archie and Neil Bourne have been on there at times. Maybe it's sort of a flexible rotating role, and maybe the extra midfielder plays there rather than just a specialist wingman for now. But in time, I think we need to address that.
Well, I think that's, without, again, going into too much depth, I think that is another thing where AFL is developing, where it's less about position and more about the space you own on the ground, depending on the circumstances. So, but we certainly need a couple more dynamic players running through those positions. Archie Ladolki, obviously a big forward, take a little bit
you butchered,
longer.
you butchered that, mate.
What is it? Ladolki?
It's Ludovic.
Oh, Christ.
Ludovic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ludovic.
yeah, mate. Yeah,
Sorry,
that's it.
Archie. Archie will be listening, of course.
Of course.
Sorry, mate. Obviously, big fellas take a bit longer. How's he shaped up first up?
Yeah, so pre-Christmas he was being nursed through quite a bit because he's still in the late stages of recovery from his PCL injury that he suffered around June, July.
Yeah.
And obviously for a tall bloke, that's probably going to take a little bit longer.
Mm.
But no, he's back in pretty much full training now. He's doing all the work. He still has a bit of strapping around that knee, but he doesn't seem to be too hindered by it. He needs to keep getting his tank up. But I mean, he's an impressive unit. Like he's got broad shoulders and long legs. He's quite the athletic profile, and he's got some tricks. But yeah, again, he was always going to be a project player, regardless of whether he was legit or not. So I'm not expecting much, but hopefully he can have a few pop games, during the year in the Sandful and get us excited. It seems like he's playing pretty much as a permanent forward. So I mean, with a player like him, he's a pretty late birthday. I think he was basically his birthday was on draft night or one night at 1 or 2. So he's only just turned 18. He's built like he is, super tall, quite lean.
Yeah.
He's going to take a while. He's very young in football terms as well. So one for probably next year or the year after, I think. But hopefully he keeps on the right track because he's going okay.
Yeah. Now, Indy Cotton was the wild card of the whole bloody draft trade period last year. And you mentioned him earlier. He's obviously got a good football background in juniors, but transitioned to basketball. Are we going to get a Scott Pendlebury, or how's he been going?
Well, he's not playing midfield or anything like Pendles at the moment. They're playing him as a forward, and I won't lie. I think that's probably not where I'd be going right now with him. I'd be moving up to grounds, maybe even playing in defence, just to get a feel for it. You obviously, playing up forward. Having not played footy for 4 or 5 years, it's a bit of a graveyard role. It's going to be hard for him to learn.
Yeah.
But no, he's because he's one of the few that's actually been managed a bit since Christmas. But before Christmas, he was doing all the work, and he's exciting. He's very calm, cool, collected sort of guy. But he's really not nice in the air. He sort of floats at the ball, a bit Heaney like, or Fife like in that regard. He really gets up high when he extends. He's going to be quite hard to play on, and he's really mobile for a guy that's about 193 centimeters, I think. So he's and he's bigger than you would think too. We think of like the basketballers, and you're not going to be a big guy, but he's really thickened up already. He seems to be one of those guys that puts on size easily. So look, I'm curious to see what we do with him long term in terms of his position. But again, he's another one I wouldn't expect to play round 1 or anything because he just needs to learn how to play football again. But he might be one of the ones that surprises. Not sure about a debut this year, but I think he's going to do some pretty handy things out there, mate. He just seems to have that grace about him. He's quite fun to watch. So I think he's one to get excited about. And obviously, we got him for nothing. So
yeah, and then of course we picked up Callum Archie during the course of proceedings, and you mentioned that he's had a little bit of an interrupted start, but I just like the versatility he brings. What have they been doing with him during the limited match sim?
So he's basically been playing as a high-running forward who basically pushes up right into the half-back line. So sort of like Neil Bourne in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's it's one of those things, we think we have good players in our list, but like then you see a guy like Archie come in and his skill level and his composure and everything, and you think this guy was a role player at the Lions, and
Yeah.
Here at Crows, he's one of our best ball users.
Mm,
It just shows you how talented the Brisbane list is.
yeah.
Yeah, he's great, Fee. I mean, as you'd expect, 28-year-old who's played in flags and whatnot, you expect a quality player, but gee, he's good. He's smooth out there. His kicking's beautiful. He just makes the right decisions. He's really calm and composed. He's going to be a real asset for us. And again, we got him for nothing. So yeah, thanks Brisbane. But yeah,
Mm.
I'm really happy with how he's tracking. As I said, he's been held back a little bit, but when he actually has trained, and which has been a fair bit, don't get me wrong, he's looked great. He's looked really good out there. So he'll be in round one obviously, and he's going to be great for us.
Yeah, I think his acquisition's a little bit underrated. I'll be very keen to see the impact he makes because I think he just adds something to us. A little bit of polish, a lot of composure. He's a big game player in my opinion. I'm very keen to see how he goes. Now let's talk about some fringe players, mate. And the one obviously that's probably on most people's lips is Charlie Edwards. How's he
Mm.
shaped up after the break?
So last year, as in before last preseason, I thought he looked like someone that, and this is typical. Usually, in players in their second year, they ease off a little bit
Yeah.
and they come back not out of shape, but he just didn't look he wasn't running quite as well. His time trial was down, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he actually ended up having a pretty good year, Charlie, in that half back role. And we wanted him
Mm.
to debut, during the middle of the year. But it obviously meant that, I guess, to the coaches that, when I say this, it was probably a factor in why the coaches moved him out of the midfield into defence because they probably thought, well, his running's dropped off, so he's not going to be able to play midfield at AFL level, so let's
Mm.
play him in defence. It was also
Mm.
probably to hone his defensive side and get him a bit more accountable. Um, but now he's playing midfield again in this
Okay.
preseason. He's basically permanent midfielder.
That's pleasing.
So yeah, I think people will be happy to hear that. And he looks really fit out there. He's leaned up a bit. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough.
Right.
But yeah, he's been pretty good without starring, and I I don't think he's in the mix just yet. I think there's a few other fringe players who are ahead of him for
Mm.
various roles. He's not doing a whole lot wrong, but I just want to see him get a bit more intense and a bit more aggressive out there. He's a bit of a nice player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he cruises around. He's great when he gets the ball because he's got a really penetrating kick and he knows where to get it in transition. But there hasn't been a lot of stoppage work, so I can't really judge that yet. He won one or two clearances on the weekend, which was good. But otherwise, yeah, look, I'd say he's going, but I wouldn't say he's starring or anything or standing out. So probably not what people want to hear. But it's hard for everyone to stand out every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's so many players out there. When we're talking 40 plus each session, it's really hard. And a lot of the time you're just doing drills minor drills that are hard to sort of stand out in. So sorry, some motorbikes just going past me, but yeah. So I would say he's probably going to be starting in the reserves at this year, but hopefully he finds a way in sooner than not because there is some talent there, but I still think he's got some things to work on before he gets in.
I think there comes a time in a kid's career early on, particularly when he's playing a position that's obviously competitive, where he's just got to be more assertive and just make a decision that he's going to make that position his and force his way in. And I think that's where Charlie's at the moment. To be honest, he's got to make himself almost impossible to ignore, I think.
Yeah, and look, it's tough for him because we're talking about a kid that's only 20 years old, but he's out of
Mm,
contract. So, he'll be feeling the pressure, and hopefully that drives him to keep working on his game because, like I said, he's a big guy, he moves really well, and he's got a great kick, and he knows how to get the ball, so particularly in that half, out of half back, sort of in that through the guts. He's that long
yeah,
kick that can hit up targets and take risks.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I just want to get his hands a bit dirty, get a bit nasty out there. I think those are the things. Otherwise, I think he's going to be found out a bit at AFL level
yeah,
unless he fixes those. So still a bit of time to go, I think, for Charlie.
yeah. Now, the captain had a few nice words to say about Luke Nankervis, and I know that many CrowCast fans are also fans of Luke, and as are we, and very
Yeah,
keen to understand where he's at the moment.
yeah. This is a good one, Fee. He's going great right from day
Mm.
dot. Pretty much, he looked great out there. Um, and look, he looked good last preseason too. You know, we were talking about how he was
Yeah,
always in
we
the B
were.
team, and Miller was always in the A team. And look, in the end, I think Nate ended up losing his confidence a bit, and he
We
obviously didn't
got
have the year
shuffled
he would have
around in the
liked.
twos a lot. He was playing bloody forward half the time in the twos.
Yeah, we do some strange things in the twos, Fee, without
God, do we
team
ever?
selection. Um, but no, he's flying. He's been one of the standouts. So Dawson just saying that wasn't just fluff. He's actually genuinely been training really well, really
Yeah,
dynamic and fast out there. He's playing halfback,
yeah.
and not all the time, but most of the time, he's been selected in the A team. So sometimes with the players, whether they're in the A or B team, sometimes you can't read too much into it because they want
Mm,
certain players playing on certain opposition players. So
yeah,
sometimes they actually do play the best players play in the B team because they got to play against particularly key defenders and whatnot.
yeah.
But pretty consistently, I think he's been favoured for that A team. And if I had to pick the team right now, for me personally, he'd obviously be in it. But even for the coaches, I think he'd be in the team right now, which I think is a really good sign. So fingers, hopefully he keeps it going. There's only a month or so left to the practice game start. And hopefully he plays well there too, because I think we all want him in the team, and because he offers just a bit of X factor, and he's just too quick for them, Fee. And he has the confidence to use his speed, and if he does get tackled, he's usually pretty good at breaking them. You know, he's a skinny bloke, but he's got that hidden skinny power, and
Yeah,
that's strength. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan, but he's not doing anything wrong at the moment. He's going to be in really good form if hitting the season, I think. So yeah,
I, th-
get
I
excited
think
about him.
one of the things we saw creep into his game late was a bit of the Rory Atkins, where he just tried to break one too many tackles. So I'm hopeful that he will get that sort of out of his game a little. I don't mind him being evasive, but I hope he gets a better understanding of when to give and when to go, sort of thing. But love his work. I think he offers a lot. Um,
Mm.
Oscar Ryan, how's he going?
Um, Look, he hasn't been bad or by any means, but he's probably one that hasn't really stood out at much. Um,
Mm.
he's it, it's a hard one because we've got to actually have a lot of halfback options without having any real star halfbacks.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like if you try and select our team right now, you've probably got about 8 guys you want playing sort of that halfback
yeah,
or intercept player. You know, we got
yeah.
Hinge, Miller, Laird, Max, even Wild sort of plays that role as well. Cumming can go back there and play it. We've got Nate Curvis to talk about. There's another bloke I'm sure we'll talk about soon as well. And so, yeah, I mean, we've sort of got so many options. So I think he's going to find it hard to get in the team at this stage. I'm a fan, but I wish he was just doing a bit more. You know, he's
Yeah,
got some speed, and he's someone who can hit targets at speed, which is
yeah,
not an easy thing to do.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, sometimes he just goes missing a bit, or he
Mm,
fluffs it up a bit too much, and I'm sort of like, oh god, like he's not going to get in team training like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so look, he's not. As I said, I don't want to say he's training badly because he's not. He looks good. He looks fit out there, and all that stuff. But he probably just needs to do something a bit more to sort of stamp his authority.
yeah.
Um, because right now he's just sort of going, and with a guy like Nank, obviously Nank's got a couple more years in the system, but he's sort of playing a
Mm,
similar role, and he's
mm,
doing the things you want Ryan to be doing. You know, taking
yeah.
the game on, really putting speed on the game. So yeah, he just needs to do a bit more. I think he's obviously got time, but yeah, I don't think he'll be playing around one either.
Yeah. Huey Bond is a personal favourite and a favourite of many. I'd love to see him in the side. I know it's going to be a struggle with Rory Laird sort of being the incumbent of that smaller defender, and they like his experience down back. But how's Huey going?
Well, to me, I think Hugh's always been like sort of the victim of Max Michaelani being, obviously such a set player in our team.
Mm,
Max has only missed games due to injury. He's never really been dropped, except for
yeah.
once in his first year. And they sort of played that similar role, obviously that lockdown role. But he's not doing much wrong, he's always been, particularly in the last couple of years, because he's so fit. He's always pretty impressive on the track with his running and whatnot. But just the evolution of his game to be more composed, his decision making and his skill level is so much better. He used to be a bit of a fumbler. He doesn't really fumble much anymore.
Yeah.
He used to sometimes turn the ball over. He barely does that anymore. He just seems like a much more confident player.
Mm.
And we saw that last year, and that's just sort of flowed into this preseason as well. So that's been good to see. I think he's touch and go for the team. I think he's definitely around the mark. He's been in the A team occasionally,
Yeah.
including in the scratch match on Friday. So, he's definitely in the mix. Absolutely. Like if he was in terms of the whole squad and plus emergencies, he'd be in the team right now. So he's not doing anything wrong, and it's just a matter of how many small defenders is too many. I guess, Finn. That's the only question, I guess.
Well, I guess my comment to that is he's kind of been pigeonholed as a small defender. He obviously came to the club as a midfielder.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to see them give him a run as an inside mid in the twos because I think he's actually got a bit to offer there.
I'd love to see him as a tagger. Like with his physicality
Well,
and
that
his
too,
fitness,
yeah, yeah.
I reckon, and his ability to lock down opponents, I think it makes too much sense. But we have obviously good teams don't tag thing, so
Well,
um,
a lot of good
yeah,
teams tagged last year.
yep, that's for sure. So I wish we got the memo on that. But
Mm,
if we ever were to switch it up and actually tag a player, yeah, Bondi's definitely the one I'd love doing it, and I think that'd be a great way to get him in the team. Um, but as I said, otherwise, I still think he'll find ways in the team this year. He's too good not to.
mm,
And as soon as there's an injury to a half back or a lockdown defender, I think he's straight in, and he might
mm.
get in regardless.
I'd just hate to see him pigeonholed, and I agree. He's probably first choice as in a tagging role if we do decide to go down that road.
Yeah,
But I'd like to see him freed up in the twos and given a bit of a rein in the midfield because I think he's got a bit to offer that maybe has gone under the radar. And he came from a fair way back, and which is why he's probably been pigeonholed into that sort of mid-sized defender role. But
yeah.
I think he could be more than that. And Sam Berry had his hand up for an inside role and probably needs to improve a step or two on his late season showing from last year. And Hugh Bond should not be out of the equation for a role like that in our side.
No, I agree. And it's funny. Like his first preseason, he barely did anything because came with a back issue,
Mm,
basically like a stress fracture in his back or something of that sort. And he really struggled in his first year here when he did play SNFL. He struggled to get
mm,
his hands on it, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure, but he's just gone from strength to strength, and so that's a great sign that he's improving year on year. And
yeah.
he's faster and more nippy and dynamic than you might think,
Mm, mm.
or at least
And
some
fitness
people
is
might
never
think.
going to be a problem.
No, definitely not. He's obviously one of our best runners. So
Yeah.
he's got a fair bit going for him, Hugh. I agree, Finn. I would like him in the team. It's just a matter of can we fit him in, which
Yeah.
I guess is a good problem to have. But he does deserve a gig.
And there's another lad in that sort of conversation. Well, there's a couple actually, but the one I'm thinking of right now is your boy Zach Taylor. How's he scrubbed up after Christmas?
Look, he's definitely running the best he's run. Like it used to be hard to watch him at times when they did the running at the end of each session because anytime it started to go for a bit longer than 10 minutes, he would start to lag a bit, and it's like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah.
But he's keeping up. He's never lagging now. He wasn't last in the time trials or anything like that. He's still not a great runner, but he's not far off James Peatling sort of type now.
Okay.
So he's obviously come a long way. They are playing in that half forward role pretty much exclusively, bar surprisingly on the scratch match, he actually lined up in the midfield for the
Okay.
B team. So I was glad to see that. But whenever they do stoppage craft work or anything like that, he's never actually involved. So
Right.
I think it seems like he's probably going to be sort of the Rochelle role in
Yeah.
terms of mostly forward with a little bit of midfield. I feel
Yeah.
like it's going to do him a disservice, and it's almost setting him up to fail because he's a natural midfielder. Um,
Mm, mm,
but yeah, he's like he might be able to turn things around in preseason games because I think he's a natural player. So when games start, he's going to obviously do a lot more.
yeah, yeah.
But at the
But
moment,
he's got to get more of the
he's got his,
ball.
yeah. At the moment, I think he's got his work cut out for him because everyone's fit and firing. So I just don't see how he gets into the team. He's obviously played the last 15 games of the year or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's a new year, and I think with everyone fit again, I suspect he'll be starting in the Magoos to start the year, and then hopefully he can work his way back into it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's on the edge right now, Fiend, in terms of where his career's going to go because obviously he
Oh,
only got the 1 year contract.
I think
Um,
Archie pushes him out early. That's the problem for him. Is where is he going to
oh yeah,
find that role?
yeah, and obviously Rochelle will be back. Well, hopefully he'll be back. He wasn't
Yeah,
Rochelle out was one of the reasons Taylor was in the team. So, and
yeah.
Pedler's having a pretty good preseason as well. So, in terms of that forward role, he's up against it to get in the team. And in terms of midfield role, well, they're not really considering him as a midfielder. And regardless, because Dan's
Mm,
moving in there, I just don't
mm.
see a spot for him at the moment. But probably one of those players. Yeah, it's a bit similar to Bond's definitely in front of him, but as similar to a Bond's, probably might have to rely on injuries to get in.
Yeah, yeah. And the other bloke I think in that boat too is Braden Cook. Plenty of class. Probably didn't use his opportunities enough last season, and he did get some good opportunities last season. How's he stripped up?
So obviously, I've been really excited about Nankervis. Um,
Yeah.
and, but I think Cook's not too far off in terms of what he's doing at the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
they're actually playing off the halfback,
Okay.
and I know like it's the everyone's been moved, more midfield time, or everyone's moved to halfback to get the ball, and you can't fit the ball in. So
Yeah.
I understand, and also some of the concerns we have about Cookie, where he's competitiveness. So does that worry us as him being a defender now? How's that going to work? But so far so good, Fiend. Like he looks really dynamic out there. And it's he obviously doesn't get enough of the pill when he does play AFL level, but
Mm, mm.
these days if you want to get the ball, mate, you play halfback. So
Yeah.
look at the way these a lot of these drills are set up, even the match sim, is that it does benefit the defenders who run and carry and everything. They seem to get a bit more pill than the midfielders and forwards do.
Yeah.
So the proof will be in the pudding when the preseason games start. But he was in the A team on the weekend, albeit there was a couple of players missing, but in Sid and obviously Keezy. But
Mm.
I think he's in the mix. He's doing a lot right.
Okay.
His kicking is obviously beautiful. So we wanted that elite kick off half back, and guy takes risks, and he does, which is something Miller doesn't quite do.
Mm.
And obviously, he's a much better kick than say your Lairds and whatnot. So um, I think he's another one where he might have to rely on injuries early on, but I'm actually pretty excited about this move. As I said, proof will be in the pudding because we need to see how does he go 1-on-1. Is he going to be exposed by better great forwards out there? Um, but at the moment, it seems to be working. He looks really confident. His running's really improved, and he's really quick and dynamic out there, similar to Nank. And it's his kicking that's the big thing. He rarely makes a mistake. He sets you up with his kicks because he takes a risk and he hits them. So
Well,
there might
we
be
spoke
something there,
about
Fee.
yeah,
There
we
might be
spoke
something there.
about the wings earlier, and I just wonder whether I know they played him a bit on the wing, and he looked a little bit lost last season.
Yeah.
But I've always felt that if he just improved his running power a bit and got to more contests, that he'd be a very, very good wingman. So be interesting to see how that progresses. Won't go through the whole bloody tanks. We'll be here for 3 hours, but a couple
Yeah.
more. I'm interested to see whether Tyler Welsh has matured over the off season and actually taken it seriously.
So in terms of his physical makeup, he looks much leaner than he did last year. He's not lagging in the running at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's not our best runner by any means, but he's certainly keeping up, with the other tall players in the team. So that's obviously been a big improvement from last year. I
Yeah.
have no doubt he would have had PBs in his time trials and whatnot. But there's just too many flaws in his game, Finn. Just watching him,
Mm.
he'll fumble the easy balls. He'll drop marks. He'll miss kicks. Just there's no polish to his game.
Mm.
And even on the scratch match, there was actually a period where he was getting quite a bit of the ball working up the ground, but then he would just like hack it on the boot, or he just looks very low in confidence. There's
Mm.
no real he's no doesn't seem to have the maybe it's the smarts, but also just the confidence to sort of compose himself and make the right decisions. He just seems to be burning the ball at the moment.
Yeah.
And then he will drop marks. He just shouldn't be dropping. So um, I'm not saying it's a total write off, but it's getting towards that space where it's like it's just hard to see how he stays on the list, particularly given he was delisted anyway, and then re-rookied. So he's obviously on the edge as it is. And
Mm.
like credit to him for putting in the work because he obviously has improved his tank and he's conditioned. But there's more to that. There's more to footy than just that. There's so many other aspects, and AFL is a different breed of footy too. It's not not kick it to me long in the goal square. There's a lot more involved running and positioning,
Yeah.
and you can't make errors. You get punished so much for making errors. So he'll need a big year in the SANFL to stay on the list. Hopefully he does for his sake, because we're all pretty excited about him at one point. But with all the players that we've brought to the team,
Mm.
and particularly the tall options up forward, I just think we'll probably persist with them, and he might fall by the wayside. But we'll see how he goes this year. I don't want to write a player off this early in the year.
No, of course not. And, I think a 40-goal SANFL season would really change the trajectory for him. There's a lot of Darcy Fogarty in his early career in Tyler, I believe. Darcy was also one that probably needed to get fitter, and look at him now. Darcy can run up and down the ground pretty well. So if there was someone to model his game on, it'd be Fogs, I reckon. But
I just think
we don't wish anyone to drop off the list, but I think we can acknowledge that Tyler's got a lot to do this year, I think.
yeah, and then I guess and this is not to be cruel, but like with Fog, at least you could see when Fog got the ball that he had that great decision making and
Yeah.
obviously great ball use, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't getting enough of it. But whenever Fog did get it, he looked great. But
Yeah.
I can't even really say the same about Welsh. Like he's a good kicker for goal, and he can actually take a mark, a really nice mark on occasion. But there's no he just makes the easy look hard sometimes.
Mm.
We talk about how Pedler frustrates us with his decision
Mm.
making and his errors at times. But Welsh is sort of on another level.
Mm.
I just think there's too many holes in these games. But we'll see how he goes, because at least he's put in the work, so he's setting himself up for a chance at it.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can get his confidence back, because we know for any footballer, confidence is huge, but particularly for a young key forward, it's so important to feel good about yourself. He looks like he's doubting himself a lot when he gets the ball.
Yeah. I wonder if he's got a mentor within the club. Is anyone getting around him?
Well, it's hard to judge that at training, I won't lie, because everyone gets around everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't look that way, but I'm sure he has someone around the place, but whether that's inside or outside the club. But I couldn't tell you for sure. Finn.
Yeah, it's a hard gig for a kid in that environment when they don't have a couple of allies. We've seen the draftees come through and they're living together and they're getting around each other. But if Tyler being a local product and being having some publicity early that wasn't necessarily positive and being on the outer a little bit, I hope that the club is putting support mechanisms around him so that he can get the best out of himself.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. One more, and then I'll ask you maybe for a top 5 from your first week impressions. Just want to check in with Nick Murray and see how he's going. Didn't look like he'd 100% recovered last season from that knee. How's he come back after Christmas?
Well, he was one of those blokes before Christmas. He always seemed to have a bit of strapping on him, so that was always a bit of a worry. It wasn't always knee though; it was sometimes calf. So he just seems one of those guys that picks up niggles
Yeah.
quite easily. And maybe that's just the way he plays. He jumps a lot, so he's obviously landing awkwardly
Yeah,
at times. That's how he did
yeah,
his knee, of course, as well. And yeah, there are still some moments where I'm like, oh, gee, I just don't think he's moving quite as well as once he once was. But
mm,
other times he looks really dynamic out there. When he gets the ball, no one can tackle him. He's like a big ball out there.
yeah, yeah,
He's someone that has the ability to break tackles and put a bit of speed on the game, even though he's not a great user like Cook or Nankar. I do like him when he sort of bursts through and kicks it long because he can kick 60 meters with no issue. So um, he offers something different to Butts in that regard, but it's just a matter of can he defend like Butts, and
yeah,
that was probably the issue last year where he just wasn't able to have that athleticism to defend as well as Butts, which wasn't a problem for Murray 2 years ago before his knee, but obviously we've heard talk about there being complications from his knee that have extended past into last year, and that
yeah,
seemed to be the case. Multiple times he just looked like he was on the train tracks. He wasn't able to move side to side as well as he used to. So I'll see how he goes in the 1v1s and stuff as we see more and more practice games.
mm,
Uh, you know, but no, look, he looks pretty good out there. But if I was to judge it solely based on this preseason, I wouldn't say either Butts or Murray are ahead of each other. I mean, they both look really fit,
yeah,
and they're both training well. It's just, I think we need to see more about how they go, particularly against other AFL opposition.
yeah.
Where
The Sims against Port will be interesting.
well, I mean like Murray's been training against Tex and Fog for years now. Like he knows how they
Mm,
work. It's you got to see how they go against players that don't train and know back to front. So
yeah,
and that's the case for both of them. Like in terms of the selections from the coaches at the moment in the scratch matches or match sim or whatnot, it's always been Murray in the A team over Butts. If
yeah,
that gives you an indication.
yeah,
Um, Sometimes they're both Butts and Murray have been in the B team. So, but that's more of a selection positional thing. But
mm,
if it's been between them, it's always been Murray the preferred one. So it's sort of been a continuation of last year, which I don't necessarily agree with. But
mm,
it's not like Murray's certainly not training poorly by any means. I'm just more for me. It's more about what happened in the back half of last year.
yeah. Fair enough. Mate, just before I get to the top 5 performers so far, I just want to remind people of a couple of things. First of all, thanks to the people who have joined us in the Discord audience. We will be running live recordings all through the pre-season. So if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on the pod and you want to get involved in that and you're not yet a member of our Discord, please feel free. There'll be invite links in the description of this video to get around that. We've got a pretty good community, but we always welcome new and returning community members, so get around that. Also, the big news, big man, of course, is that Tuesday Night Live will be back this season. A lot of OG CrowCast listeners will remember Tuesday Night Live, and Macca has decided to Sunday nights. He's a bit full from Sunday afternoon roast. So he's going to move over to Tuesday night with me, and we'll be doing Tuesday Night Live, and that'll be the way it was before. And I brought a chat about the Crows and the AFL, as well as talking Crow specific stuff as well, and looking at the match. But our primary match review will remain the Weekend Wrap Show with you, me, and Brownie on occasions. But that will be a far more concise show, talking specifically about the match of the weekend. And the beauty of that, mate, is that any time we get off tangent, we can just say, oh, well, we'll talk about that on Tuesday night, and that'll allow us to get back on track. So there's method in my madness there. So those 2 shows will start probably just prior to the season, probably just around about the time that the trials commence, but stay tuned. And yes, Rob T, it'll be Weekend Wrap will be 8:30 on Sundays, and Tuesday Night Live will be 8:30 on Tuesday nights. But yeah, keep an eye on the socials for the start dates for those. Mate, we'll probably round this off with just a few comments from you around who you see are the best performers on the track so far. Probably top 3 or 4 or maybe 5. I'll leave it up to you. What do you reckon?
This is always hard for him because you got the players who you know what you're going to get. So like a Jordan Dawson, for instance. Dawson probably was a little bit underdone before Christmas because he was coming off that foot injury that he had late last season.
Yep.
So he looked, I wouldn't say looked out of condition by any means, but just didn't look quite rock hard fit. And yet since the Christmas break, he's come back and he just looks brilliant. Like he looks like Dawes. He killed the practice match on the weekend.
Yeah.
So do I put him in the top 5? I got like Isaac Rankine. He looks great. He looks like even from the first session back last year, he looked like he was ready to play round 1. Well, he can't play round 1, we know that, but he looked like he was ready to go.
Yeah.
And he looks like he has a point to prove, but he's still being he has to hold himself back at times. You can tell that he's trying to restrict himself because if it was up to him, he'd just be going nuts every preseason training session. So, does he get in the top 5? So, because these guys are, if I stand back and look at it, who are the best trainers? It's probably your Dawsons, your Rankins, our best players.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more about who are the players that, whether it's a positional change, obviously a younger player who needs to step up, or a fringe player who is he wants to get a spot in the team. Who are the ones that are really making a case for themselves? And to me, obviously we talked about Dan Curtin, he'd be one. Partly just because of just how ridiculous his rig is. I don't know if you looked on the Crow's website. They had the like what they've been doing over the Christmas break.
Yeah.
And he went to Noosa, I think, with his brother and family, and there's a photo of him next to the pool with his shirt off, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like this guy, he might have the best rig in the AFL. He's that well built, and he's not only is he like he's bulky to an extent, but he's really he's obviously
he's
great
very
runner.
lean, very lean.
Yeah, he's just a freak. Like 20 years old, you should not be able to get built like that. But he is, and look, just the fact that he's not only playing the midfield, but just the things I saw on Friday and the way he's going about it, he has to be put in there just for the whole excitement of it all.
Yeah.
Ben Curvis would be right up there, absolutely. He seems like someone who, again, he sort of had a point to prove with how he would have been pretty flat about how last year went. They're giving him a go at this half-back role, which is something he really wanted. He wasn't too happy about he's playing other roles like wing and half-forward. So he's taken it with both hands, mate. I'd be pretty surprised now if he wasn't playing round 1.
That's
I'll chuck
excellent.
Cookie. Yeah, I'll chuck Cookie in there too. I don't think he's as much of a lock for round 1 as Nath is, of course. But I think if you asked me last year, I would have said, yeah, I don't think that's going to work, but maybe it will work just the way it's going. And also credit to Cookie, his competitiveness did improve a lot last year in this Sandful. Yeah. And in some of the games he played in the AFL, he actually showed he had changed his game and adapted, which he needed to.
Yeah, he did.
There's obviously he needs to keep it going and take the next step up, and it's a contract year for him too. So it's a now or never for Cook, but hopefully
he needs a 20 posse game, doesn't he? At A grade level, he needs a 20 possession game.
If you can't get it at halfback, mate, you're never going to get it these days.
That's right.
Where everyone gets the ball. So let's see how he goes. I don't want to hype him up too much because he's obviously just a fringe player still, but he's good with the ball thing. He's a really good kid. So they're 3. And then, I'd probably chuck in Michelle in there just because he just looks like someone who is really confident in their game, in their body. And I get the feeling he's just really wants games to start so he can prove. I reckon he's underrated around the competition now.
I'm predicting a breakout just quietly for Rochelle. I just think he's primed and ready to go. I reckon missing those last few games last season would have eaten away. I think it impacted us more than what we expected it would. And I just he's not going to die wondering, Josh Rochelle, and I just think he's going to have a sneaky breakout year next season.
I think you're right, Finn, or at least I hope you're right. He was tracking to an All-Australian squad sort of season.
Mm.
But unfortunately, he gets his ribs broken, then he hurts his knee
Yeah.
a few weeks later, and he misses like half the season. Basically,
Yeah.
he was on track for a pretty big year.
Yeah.
And I feel like he knows he left a lot of good games out there on the park. So
Agreed.
he wants to make up for lost time. They're probably the main ones. I'll chuck two more names in there, and that's
Okay.
Archie, who
Yeah.
we talked about.
Bless you.
Just the. Wasn't expecting
Sorry.
that. But just the class that he shows. Like I said, he's probably a dime a dozen at Brisbane, but when you see him at our group, and not to say we're a low skilled team, because we're not. We've definitely come a long way in that regard.
Yeah.
But Jesus is good, and you can tell he's come from a system that just knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'll chuck in Luke Pedler as well. So
Okay. Yeah, we didn't really talk about Luke.
yeah. So look, he was. It's a shame he was actually really quiet in the scratch match or the 30 minutes of play on Friday, because otherwise he's been really good out there. His running is the best I've seen. I know I've said it quite often, but I've never seen him run as well as he has this preseason. And he hasn't had any injury issues to my eye anyway so far. And
Probably the
just
most
looks really
pleasing.
dynamic out there.
Yeah.
And when because of he's obviously got a better tank at the moment. It means less errors for him. He's not making as many fumbles or strange decisions that he can do sometimes.
Yeah.
He's still got occasionally does things where you're like, really, like Peds, like what happened there, mate? But for the most part, he's been really really clean with the ball and efficient, and his aerial stuff's been great. Like he's just really hard to play on for a guy's size. Like he's not obviously tall, but he can play quite tall. I still agree with you, Finn. He's still going to take a bloody mark of the week one time. It's going to happen.
One day he's going to climb on someone's shoulders and take a bloody, what was that West Coast guy's name?
Sampy.
Sampy. He's going to take a Sampy one day, I swear to God.
That's that'd be nice. That's a bloody good mark, that one. But
he only has to take one.
I thought more Paddy Parnell sort of style.
No. Pez is going to stand on someone's head one day, I'm sure of it.
But look, he hasn't done a whole lot wrong, and I think he'd be in the round one team as it is. Even though you got Keezy and Neil Bourne and now Archie in there, and Rochelle, so spots are sort of tight, aren't they? But I think with
the sorry to interrupt you, with the expanded bench, I reckon there's scope for a couple of those like-for-like swaps. We've got, Luke and Keezy can probably, like-for-like swap in there. You've got Neil Bullen, Archie, and maybe one or two others that can roll through that forward, half-forward push-up roll. So I reckon there's a bit of scope for two of the same type, whereas before you'd probably say Ben Keys and Luke Pedler in a full squad, all fit, might be battling each other for a spot, but now I kind of think that there's room for both of them.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And look, not to chuck every name in there because obviously that waters down the whole thing, but I haven't mentioned him, and that's a bit of disservice to because he actually has a really good preseason. More so just the fact that he looks like he's running a lot better, and that's Jake Saligo.
Yeah, right, okay.
So he was good last preseason as well, and he started the year well, and then obviously seemed to hit a wall, and hopefully that doesn't happen this year. But
another lad with groin problems, I think.
Yeah, so look, he let's hope it stays the same way as it is right now because he looks really. He's never going to be super quick, Jake, but he's looking really fresh and fit out there and covering the ground a lot more. So hopefully that stays the same way, and if it does, then I'm pretty sure he's ever going to have a good year, and he needs to because we do need a lift from him. I think he's someone that we're sort of banking on to be part of our core midfield over the next 10 years.
And his best is so good too. His best is so good. He's just got to find that baseline, lift up the floor a little bit so that his baseline's a bit higher, I think.
Yep, and if he's fitter, he's going to get a bit more easy ball, get those numbers up, use the ball a bit better. Just all those little things that he seemed to struggle with in the back half of the year. So, look, there's a lot of other guys I could talk about, but they're the ones that come to mind, I think, Fee.
Yeah. We've got a whole pre-season to cover some of the others as well, like Joshy Worrell and a few of the others there. But if I give you enough rope, mate, we're going to be here until bloody sunset. So I reckon that's either of us, mate. It's not just you. Don't worry. It's a CrowCast epidemic. But look, I think we'll cut it off there. Really appreciate your time, mate. Your insight is second to none in terms of what you observed down there at training. So really appreciate you taking the time, and appreciate everyone who's come on and had a listen on Discord. Don't forget, as I mentioned, if you're a YouTube member or if you're a gold, silver or bronze Discord member, you get access to these live recordings, and you can ask away in the chat as we go along. But in the interim, mate, thank you very much. I hope the injury improves over the coming days.
Thanks, Finn, and hopefully I get rid of this cough, mate. I think the heat's got into my voice or something. I'm losing my voice right now, so
yeah, well, it's not going to get any better just yet. Yeah.
No, it's not. But I can't complain too much. I'm not the one running 15Ks out there like the boys are. So
no, that's right.
It's been a hot summer, mate, but they're looking good. So hopefully I've given a bit of an indication. I'll have more to say next time.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining us. Great to be back for season 2026. We'll be back in a week or so for episode 2 of the pre-season report. Until then, stay safe, take it easy, and we'll see you later.